President Trump's raising tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from 25% to 50%. Yeah, they're now in effect. CNN's Vanessa Jerkovich is at the magic wall to explain how this major increase may be passed on to consumers. Vanessa, what could be the impact caused by this doubling of those steel and aluminum tariffs? Yeah, a significant increase for consumers heading their way. Just look at what happened with producer prices in the last or so from March to April. Because foreign prices on steel are increasing, U.S. prices of steel will increase because U.S. producers have no incentive to keep prices low. So producer prices on steel up 6% just when there was a 25% tariff in that same time period, up 2% for aluminum. And we expect those prices to rise. And then ultimately, what does that mean for the producers making all of this stuff that us consumers buy every single month? Well, it will have an impact on cars and trucks, home appliances, machinery, airplanes of building materials that we use to build homes, and food and beverage cans. The steel industry saying that they welcome this increase in the Hegemony because they believe it will create more jobs. But still, for every one steel job saved, some reporting indicates from studies that 75 other manufacturing jobs because of the higher inputs into making these goods and services. I also want to draw your attention to how U.S. businesses are trying to skirt some of these higher tariffs. We've been looking at the Dominican Republic. A lot of companies have said that they've been trying to move to Southeast Asia out of China, but we've heard in recent months that companies are looking to the Dominican Republic. Just look at all these different that are already manufacturing tea, including a new company, World Emblem, the largest producer of fur clothing. They're going to be opening shop next year, one not breaking ground this month in the country. Why, Phil? Well, there's a ton of benefits. Just look at this free zones. These are sort of industrial par that allow companies to operate tax-free in certain areas. So you're talking about income tea that they don't have to pay, transfer taxes, import taxes, some millions of dollars, proximity to the U.S., Dominican just days away compared to Asia, which is weeks away, and wages of less to manufacture in the Dominican Republic than M. But, Phil, some hurdles. We're talking about space. It's a small island, not a ton of space to manufacture. And because of the size, fewer skilled workers. And then the biggest issue that I've heard from people is people just simply don't know. Phil, that there's a big manufacturing capacity in the Dominican Republic. I asked the CEO of World Emblem how he found out about the Dominican Republic. He's moving 30 to 35% of his production there.
Trump made the announcement at
this
a
is the
rally
reason,
in Pennsylvania,
and this is why he heard about W to move all of his production to
U.S. national security.
That's where he got the answer.
Tariffs as a way to
just shows wasn't well known to him. But he got his answer from AI, and now he's spending millions
to. The tariff news comes after Trump announced
Phil,
a partnership.
Your story this morning laying all this out with absolutely fascinating, great, brilliant reporting, Vanessa. Thank you, my friend.
Of the partnership are
Thank you, Bill. We're back with our Business Lié, where we hear from small business across America about President Trump's tariffs. Some like the tariffs, many doin'. My next guest describes his product as Life Alert, mixed with Fixbit. But for houseplants, it's a Bluetooth device to help you care for your plant and keep it alive. The business is called Flora and launched during the pandemic. Founder of A Day joins me now from Nashville of You. It's such a unique product. I have a lot of questions about how you actually produce in manufacturing supply chain, and what effect tariffs have had on that process. Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, Genera, thank you so much for having me and highlighting stories like mine for small businesses that are affected by tariffs. So this story inevitably starts all the way back as really an American dream store adventure story of me literally turning on my MacGyvers, had to create these plant sensors that act as life alerts, like yo, because I was a serial killer back in the day to COVID. I was killing every single plant in my line of sight. It was my mom's gift to prize rosewood plants that I killed that inevitably led me to patenting and inventing the S, so I could basically stop others from killing their plants.
加
We
剧
had our
经济衰
breakthrough
退风
moment
险。
in terms of
墨
that
西哥、
American
越南等
journey
替代
last
产
year
地仍
when
依
we
赖
actually
中国
got
中
on the
间体。
Sharon
越
demand
南对
coming
美
up.
出口中
And so
38%
to
含
feasibly
中国
make
零
all
部
of
件，
tea in
所
terms
谓
of
去中
producing
国
our
化
first
彻底沦为
manufacturing
贴牌
batch,
再
we
出
actually
售。
produced it out of
欧盟、
sea.
日韩企业
We
因
had
美
our
国
first
成分标准
2,000
被迫
units
重组
come out of
供应
China
链，
last
反而
year
加速
to
与中
essentially
国
meet
签
the
订
demand
数
out
字
of
经济
Shark
伙伴
Tank.
关系协定，
And that
削弱
bill,
美
to give
国
you
主导
Conti
的
in
贸易
how
联
that
盟。
relates to tariffs,
特朗普团
that
队
shipping
试
those
图
about $78,000 all in last Tadas Corv. Now this year, you have a similar pent-up demand over the summer, right? Everyone here around Nashville is getting ready to see their cherry tomatoes blossom and thrive. And so we have all these people ready to kind of pounce on the floor pea when they arrive. We have another 2,000 batch, same batch of last year. The shipping bill this time around, from the height of the one tariffs, was $32,000 to $33,000. Mind you, that's working with multiple freight borders to get it down. So we had to make this choice of, do we literally just take the RI of shipping these out and seeing how it plays out? Or do we hold back us as a small business to make H, right? So we decided to wait it out. Luckily, we saw some relief right in the 30% zone. That effect became a 50 to 60% effective tax because all these duties, the fentanyl duties, the sector-specific duties and taxes, all at Vidwood. So this time around, our final S bill for that same batch compared to $7,000 last year is effectively over $13,000. Still, a 90% effective hike that we're having to deal with as a small business. Do you eat that? Do you pass it on? How are you thinking through kind of the long-term effect in terms of that increase? Yeah. So for us, and I'm not alone when I say this, it's an existential question, right? It's a $30,000 bill. Initially, that became twice the amount, effectively, in less than a month to the uncertainty that we're dealing with. And the last thing we want to do is with these floor pods. People buy multiple of these for their plants, right? People buy 2 at a time, 3 at a time. The last thing we want to do is price hike. The pods tour becomes not affordable at a Type B. And so And so one of the first things I did was look to absorbing the as much as we could. And so 2A for administration. For some relief, I realized that there was going to be some uncertainty here, but maybe we could get some loan funding to essentially get us through this hectic summit need. We chatted with dozens of banks that work with the SBA. We finally landed over 300 that funding and final finish line in terms of approval. Right before it got to underwrite, 2 different banks with the SAM retracted them, touting the tariffs and uncertainty around the government's policies as a risk. It felt like I was hit with this man-made sure nominee that the government, kind of pushed through in terms of sweeping policy Chan. We were this tiny ship in the middle of the ocean that we were effectively drowning looking for a lifeboat. And the SBA basically said, we don't like the fact that you're drowning out there. Sorry, right? So we're absorbing the costs much as we can. There's a lot of uncertainty we have to deal with, but we're figuring it out. Just like all the 4 million other small businesses that are impacted by these tariffs. Yeah, the business, one more time. It's called Flora, a best day.